What is up, fam? It's your boy Paul P. Henny, and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right, and y'all know, fam, we are coming to you weekly, every single Monday. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a rating wherever you get your podcast. And fam, how about this? Do me a favor and share, because you never know if the content that we are sharing here, that I'm sharing with you, will be beneficial to others. So today, fam, what we're actually doing is we're doing part two. That's right, part two of our mini series, if you will, entitled From Damaged Goods to Divine Purpose, You Still Have Value. So what we're going to do is we are going to revisit one of our key points, which is simply this, that your life has purpose and your life has value. I'm going to repeat that again for those of y'all that's all the way in the back, like all the way in the back, okay? Your life has purpose and your life has value. Now, the thought today actually comes from a different portion of my book, Slave No More, Conquering the Master Within. And it really helps to drive home the point, because today we're going to focus more on purpose. Last time it was we focused on more so on value. This time we're going to focus more so on purpose. And so here's that thought, fam. Take baby steps toward your vision. When recovering from mistakes or life circumstances that are beyond your control, or if they're failures, celebrate the small victories. While they may seem insignificant, don't underestimate their role in helping you achieve your purpose. I'm going to repeat that, okay? Take baby steps toward your vision. When recovering from mistakes or life failures or circumstances beyond your control, celebrate the small victories. While they may seem insignificant, don't underestimate their role in helping you achieve your purpose. Wow. Okay, so in order to review just a little bit more, a couple of thoughts from last week is simply this. It's hard to walk in your purpose if you don't see the value that your life still holds. On the contrary, when you see the value that your life holds, you're more equipped to walk in your purpose. When you see the value that your life holds, you are more equipped to walk in your purpose. But fam, here is the challenge. The challenge comes when you don't know your purpose. That's a big challenge, fam. That's a big challenge. If you don't know your purpose, then what are we really doing here, okay? Now, it's good to understand the value, but we got to get to a point where we understand our purpose. How do we find that purpose? Where do we get that vision from our lives? So, As I was preparing for this, and I actually went back to a famous author, famous speaker. He actually passed away a few years ago. It's a guy named Myles Munroe. Now, a little bit of my personal story with this guy, Myles Munroe. My dad actually went to college with him at Oral Roberts University, so I actually became familiar with this guy quite early in life because of my father's relationship with him. So recently I went back to something that I saw him say. He said something, he wrote something years and years ago that had an impact on my life. So what I want to do is I want to share it with you. And that is simply this: where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. I'm going to repeat that. Where purpose is unknown, fam, abuse is inevitable. And he broke down the word abuse to abnormal use, or basically not using something in the way that it was meant to be used, right? In the simplest form. Now, here's the thing. So another way of saying it is, if you don't know the purpose of something, you're likely to abuse it, right? If you don't know the purpose of something, if you don't understand the purpose of something, you're likely to abuse it. So what is purpose? What is purpose? Here's a simplified definition. The original intent of a creation, right? The purpose of something is the original intent of the creation by the creator, right? So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the purpose of, let's say, Facebook. Now, Facebook was started on Harvard University's campus, right? It was started as a way, almost like a database, where the students from Harvard were able to just really connect with one another. And Mark Zuckerberg, he had this whole deal about what he wanted to do with Facebook. And there were others, Lord knows, there were others who played a role in the formation of Facebook. And it originally started with just a way for those within that campus to connect with each other, a way to, almost like a way to communicate. Now, I recall, because I'm around that age, okay, where Facebook started hitting, going from campus to campus to campus. As a matter of fact, it wasn't just called Facebook, it was called the Facebook. Okay, it was called the Facebook. And I remember my friends saying, hey, do you have the Facebook? Right? Because at the time you had to have a college email address in order to have an account on the Facebook, right? So I remember getting it, and I remember before I had my own computer, I was in the computer lab at VCU, and I created my the Facebook account. Right? And then it would go from school to school to school. And all of a sudden, I'm able to connect with my brother at the Naval Academy. I'm able to connect with my friend from high school at North Carolina A&T. And I'm able to connect with this friend from Hampton University, and this friend from Norfolk State, and this friend from UVA, Virginia Tech, William & Mary, schools from all over Virginia and beyond. All of a sudden, our worlds became much smaller because we are able to connect. And then eventually, all you needed was an email address to have a Facebook. We had to shorten it, right, from the Facebook to Facebook. All you needed was an email address to have a Facebook account. And I tell you what, it was amazing. All of a sudden, I'm able to connect with friends of mine who had moved overseas because they had a Facebook account. And then Facebook began to expand with groups and so many other things. And some of y'all know today, I know I was really introduced to the Facebook market by my lovely, my beautiful wife. And I've actually been able to get a couple things myself from Facebook market, okay? As a matter of fact, my last pair of runner shoes, they fit perfectly. And I got them from Facebook market, okay? So the original intent of Facebook was really just, in simplest terms, to help people connect, right? But here's what happened. Along the way, there became these people who had this idea, and they say, you know what, Facebook is a way for me to start my little scam. And then all of a sudden, we're seeing these scammers come on Facebook, and whether they're trying to cheat people out of money, take identities, all sorts of things. I remember my dad had a separate account. I'm like, this is not my daddy right here. Okay, this is not my daddy. And I've seen so many false accounts created, fam. So many false accounts created, and some of them have literally been trying to use those accounts to scam people. That was not the proper use. That was not the purpose of Facebook. So what they did was they didn't understand the purpose. I guess for them, I feel like they did understand the purpose, and maybe in their own screwed up kind of way, but they began to abuse it because they got beyond whatever the original intent was. You look at Twitter, or excuse me, X, formerly known as Twitter, if you will. I remember there's an inspirational guy or a Christian minister, a guy named John Bevere. This guy named John Bevere. He had this page, and he's somebody who I follow for years, and I've read some of his stuff, and I've got a lot of value from some of his things. I remember specifically somebody created a page, a fake page, if you will, and pretended to be John Bevere. And guess what? They reached out to me trying to get me to make some sort of donation that was not there that was not John Bevere's ministry. So, but that's not it. That's not why Twitter or X was created. It was more so, hey, we're going to give short updates. There was a limit for the amount of characters that you could have for these minor updates. But somebody said, you know what? This is a great opportunity for me to scam somebody. So they actually reached out to me in order to scam. They began to abuse the platform that was initially created for good things. I just want to know what's going on in your life. I just want to know what your thoughts are. That's what the guy was thinking when he created Twitter. This was a good place, a safe space for people to share their abbreviated thoughts, their abbreviated ideas, or things that were on their mind. But somehow, along the way, people began to abuse it. They got away from the initial purpose, fam. They got away from the initial purpose. I also want to take a look at this thing right here. Okay. Now, a couple years ago, my wife and I, we had the opportunity to go to Ethiopia. And fam, I loved it. I loved it. We went on a missions trip, and my wife was the photographer for this missions trip, if you will. And I was helping to teach 8th grade. I was helping to teach the 8th graders English in order to help them to reach their ultimate goal of getting to university. So while we were there, every night we would order our drinks, and my Sprite specifically would come in this beautiful glass bottle, right? And fam, I loved it. I love it because it's nothing like popping that thing open. You pop it open, you get the sound, you hear the fizz. It's a beautiful thing. So as we have this, for my Virginia folks, soda bottle, but I've been in Detroit for the past couple years now. So, up here they say pop, and I'm kind of getting used to that. Depending on the day, I might say soda, I might say pop. I don't know, depending on where I am and how I'm feeling. So you have these bottles, okay? So part of the initial intent of it was to hold that carbonated beverage and to hold that carbonation just a little bit better, to preserve that taste for a little bit longer, to keep it cooler, to preserve that temperature for a little bit longer. But what's happened over the years? Some people, whether it's a state of anger, a state of rage, they've taken that same bottle, and they've broken it. And in their purpose, begin to use that thing for violence. That was not the original intent of this soda bottle. It was meant to help preserve the drink so that you can have a fresh drink, not to be used for violence. But what happens if you don't know, or if you don't understand, or if you're not using something for its original purpose, you can eventually abuse it. So what's happened? People have used it for a violence, which quite honestly has led to people being hurt, being injured. And quite honestly, the person that is using it, some of them have been arrested for inciting violence. But once again, that was not the original purpose of this bottle. Fam, that was not the original purpose. So, as we think about this, my question for you, when we bring it back to life in general, I want to remind you of our thought that your life has purpose and your life has value. But my question for you is, what is your life's purpose? For me, I like to go back to that scripture that I've shared with y'all a time or two, which is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, where it says, for we are his creation, we are God's creation, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time so that we should walk in them. Once again, the purpose is what the Creator initially created that thing for. So if God is my Creator, apparently he must have had a purpose for me a long time ago. Now, Part of my purpose now, okay, yes, he created me for good works that he prepared for me a long time ago. But at the same time, I didn't realize that part of the good works would be this podcast right here. As a matter of fact, if I go back to college, or if I even go back to my early 20s, I can't say that I would have known that his purpose was for me to begin a podcast. If I go back to high school and college, I can't even say that I knew that his purpose for me was to write a book. But guess what? I did write a book, and eventually that book began to make its way around. But I didn't know that at the time. So fam, I didn't know these things, okay? I didn't realize that I would have a podcast. I didn't realize that I would be the author of a book. I didn't realize that at one point I would be heavily involved in a blog about fatherhood. I didn't realize these things, fam. But here's the thing. As we're in the process of figuring out our purpose, because I realize that some of us simply are not there yet. My question for you is simply this. What do you know that is your purpose right now that you can hold on to? What do you know right now that is a purpose that you can hold on to? You know, some of y'all may have heard the podcast where I talked about dealing with suicide and rage and how I eventually overcame them both. And part of the way I overcame them both was by coming to a point where I realized that my life had a bigger purpose than what I was seeing at the time, right? I wasn't seeing my purpose at the time, so it led to thoughts of suicide, which I overcame, battles of rage, which I overcame. But here's the reality, fam. If you don't understand your purpose, eventually you might begin to abuse it or play an abusive role in your life when it comes to certain things. And I don't want that for you. I want you to walk in your purpose. Last week we talked about your life having value, and there's so much truth to that. Your life has so much value, but fam, I'm here to remind you that your life has a big purpose. But some of us may feel like we're struggling to get there. And I'm here to encourage you that you can get there by simply taking baby steps. Baby steps toward your purpose. For some that might be struggling right now with life's purpose, you know, you may be married, you may have children. Guess what? You can hold on to that. You can hold on to the fact that, you know what, I don't know everything right now, but I do know that I have a wife or that I have a husband. And what I can do is I can continue to fulfill my purpose in their lives and continue to fulfill my role in their lives. Because guess what? I'm here to let you know that you are a blessing. Yes, you. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. You are a blessing. You know, perhaps you're a parent, right? Perhaps you're a parent. At the very least, part of your purpose is to mother that child or to father that child. That child needs you, fam. That child needs you. You may not know the big purpose for things that you're going to do down the road, but at the very least, what's in front of you? You know, you are a mother. You're a father, and that child needs you. That's the purpose right there. Perhaps you're not married, you don't have any children just yet, but maybe you are a brother or a sister or a friend. And guess what? The best thing that you can do is to continue to be a good brother, be a good sister, be a good friend to those around you. Because guess what? Just like you need those around you, those in your circle to help encourage you and help you to be all that you are called to be, somebody else needs you, fam. And you have an opportunity right in front of you to fulfill that purpose of being a good brother, a good sister, a good friend to somebody else. Once again, fam, we're talking about baby steps. We're talking about baby steps. You may not be writing a book. You may not be starting a podcast, but your life has a purpose, and God gave He gave you a purpose when He thought of you. You know, I believe that you were created I believe that God created you, and He was forming you in your mother's womb. And He said, you know what? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And while he was saying that he had a purpose for your life, what's your purpose? Fam, we got to figure out this purpose. We got to figure out this purpose. And once again, you take these baby steps toward that purpose. You figure out, even if you feel like it's something small at this point in time, what I want you to do, fam, is I want you to hold on to it. Yeah, it may seem insignificant, but I'm here to let you know that whatever purpose you're holding on to right now, it is significant. Your life has purpose. Your life has value. You are significant. And you are a blessing, and the purpose that you have, not only will it serve you, but it will serve those around you. And I desire that for you, fam. I desire that for you. So as we wrap up today, fam, what I want you to remember is that your life has purpose, that your life has value. And what I want you to do is to hold on, to take hold of that purpose, even if you feel like, man, Paul, I hear you, but the only thing I can identify is this small thing right here. That's okay. What I want you to do is to hold on to that seemingly small thing, fam. Hold on to it. Hold on to it. And take baby steps. And remember, you're taking those baby steps one day at a time, fam. One day at a time, you're taking those baby steps. And the longer you walk, eventually you will achieve that purpose. You were created for something. You were created for something more. Your life has purpose. Your life has value. And fam, I'm excited to walk with you as we continue to unfold whatever that your life's purpose is. And I'm actually looking forward to you sharing that with me as we continue in this journey. And remember, fam, we're not going to accomplish this all day. What we're going to continue to do is we're going to continue to learn together. We're going to continue to grow together. And we're going to continue to unlock our purpose one day at a time. You got this.